All right, everybody, welcome to another snow day Age of Absolutism YouTube video. This is getting to be super fun. Maybe we should just teach the rest of the class like this. You guys let me know. So we've talked about the European monarchs. Yesterday we went over Mughal India, and now today we're going to go over Ottoman absolutism and the great Ottoman Empire centered around Turkey. Now, we last talked about the Ottomans when we were talking about the great Islamic gunpowder empires. And it's at this point where Islamic culture and government has reached an all-time high between 1450 and 1650. So just, as Prince Henry the Navigator and the Portuguese are rounding Africa all the way through 1650 when the transatlantic trade is picking up steam. So we've got the simultaneous gunpowder empires, the Safavids in the middle, the Shiites, and then the Mughals in the east and the Ottomans in the west. And with the Ottomans, I think militarily they were the most powerful of the three. And they have this, two very powerful absolute monarchs that define absolutism in their long-lasting empire. So the empire is going to last nearly 600 years, but we're going to focus on two guys and their ideas of absolutism. Now, the Ottoman order is founded by the first guy, Mehmed with the D or Mehmet with the T, the second. He is also known as Mehmed the Conqueror. And then we have the second guy, the guy that's going to be the big star of our show, Suleiman the Magnificent. And Mehmed is the founder of the Ottoman order. He was the guy with the charisma and the military strength to break the power of the old tribal chieftains. And the way they did this, and the way it worked was it was the head of the family or the old tribal chief that kind of looked out for the family or the tribe more so than they did as an empire as a whole. Well, Mehmed is going to change that. He replaces these old tribal chieftains with his most entrusted loyal servants, similar in a way to how Julius Caesar sent out his military, subordinates, your colonels and your majors and your captains and other generals to govern the territory. This is also very similar to what Akbar the Great does in India. You are guys who know how I want things done. You understand chain of command. You are loyal. I'm going to put you out there to get it done. I am the central hub. I'm going to make the call, and you guys in your outlying territories are going to do what I tell you on a national level. Once again, kind of like Louis XIV, he said on a local level, you guys are on your own. I don't have time to handle those small, tiny, rinky-dink problems. Those are things you guys are going to have to pull off yourselves. And so, with this system, in 1453, it is Mehmed that is able to break through the Byzantine stronghold of Constantinople. All right, ever going all the way back to the days of the Crusades, and beforehand, they've been banging on the door of Constantinople, and Mehmed is able to break through. And there's the famous story of him giving the ability of the Byzantine emperor to leave, and the emperor says an emperor without Constantinople is nothing, so he had to die right there. So it is at this point that the Ottomans are going to rename the city Istanbul. And what is important about this is it gives Mehmed an access to money. This gives him the ability to secure territory in southeastern Europe, which gives him a direct access to the Italian trading states, places like Venice and Bari and Naples. He can now trade directly with those states and generate that income part of the old Mediterranean and the western end of the Asian Silk Road. So now he can make a lot of money. And one of the other things that he does is he wants to create a new law book, and this is known as the Qunami. It can be spelled with a K. It's most often seen with a Q. Qununame. And it simply means law book. The Qunami is a miniature version of the Islamic Shariah that governs your political, your social, and your commercial life, every aspect of everything you do. But with the Qunami, it does something different. It places the ulama. Remember, the ulama are very powerful, very important religious scholars. Now, while they may talk and communicate with each other, instead of being loyal to their local leader or their local chieftain, they are under the direct leadership of one sultan, and that is Mehmed. Exactly like Peter the Great controlling the Russian Orthodox Church in Russia. You now work for me. I will control the message that you receive. And so it again is this miniature Sharia, and not only is the law book important, but it also covers legally, it covers your social class, your rank, and your privileges. The things that you got to enjoy depended upon your social class, your rank, and your privileges based on the Qunami. And so by the early 1500s, right as we're getting into the discovering the new world and the voyages of exploration, the Ottoman Empire is flourishing. It is built off this solid foundation laid by Mehmed II. And Ottoman power, Ottoman control was secure from Turkey all the way northward up into the Ukraine. Right, so it is going northward up into parts of Europe. And is at this point where absolute monarch Suleiman the Magnificent is going to take over. With Suleiman in charge, he expands this territory even further, which allows him to make the Ottomans not only a major Asian, but a European empire as well. All right? This is an empire with which people are going to have to reckon with. And at this time, Suleiman is probably as powerful, if not more powerful than any European monarch at this time. His military power is literally second to none. Building upon what Mehmed started, Suleiman then reorganizes the Ottoman state under one massive military veil or umbrella or canopy. It is something that he does very similar to Peter the Great, where he equates your job in the Ottoman state, your importance, to your rank in the military. Second lieutenant, first lieutenant, captain, major, colonel, and general. The higher up on the chain of command you are, the more privileges you are entitled to. However, it's the old Spider-Man philosophy. With great power comes great responsibility. All right? I will entrust you with some, but I'm going to hold you to a higher standard. You're expected to know better. Yes, you've got a big rank, but that comes with, these privileges come with responsibility. So don't screw it up. So, if you did, the punishments were more harsh upon these guys on the upper echelons than they were the common people. So the Ottomans rule a large, diverse empire that is going to include Muslims, but also non-Muslims. There are a lot of Christians. There are Hebrews. There's all kinds of Protestants are going to be thrown in here. But everyone was expected to have allegiance to the Ottoman emperor. It's just the way it was. And so the emperor, Suleiman, is going to be very similar to the other absolute monarchs that we have studied. Suleiman's The governmental organization kind of models that of Louis and Peter and Akbar and even Philip II in Spain. He's going to have 4 basic, small, functional governmental bureaucracies. Number 1 is his palace and his court. A court is your main advisors. They are the guys who live with you in your cabinet. And they are going to be right next to him, all right? So we need to make sure all of these guys are taken care of. They've got clean rooms, they've got good food, they're close by in case I need them. And I got to tell you, I really like Suleiman's hat there, the kind of the Christmas bulb hat to keep the head, cool and dry. This is kind of awesome. But anyway, that's just a little side note. Their job in the palace and the court was to advise the emperor so he could stay hands-on. He didn't want to have to go looking for them, didn't have to have them come in from outside the city like the Stewards' Parliament. They were close by and on hand. Secondly, was the administrative branch. And this is going to be made up of Suleiman's main advisor, his chief of staff, his tiny inner cabinet, all right? So he had a few department heads that went out and they had their underlings in the palace and the court take care of the small. They were the bureaucracy. The administrative branch is the head of his bureaucracy. So his small cabinet, his treasury secretary, and this allows Suleiman to control and govern his empire directly. Again, all facets of the day-to-day national operation were run through this administrative branch. I meet with my small cabinet of advisors. If we need more input, we go out and get the palace and the court. You guys go out, take care of this, and make sure it is done. Number 3 is the military. Now, this was headed by a general, like the head of the Joint Chiefs, but it was led by the Sultan, by Suleiman. He was a warrior by trade. And last but not least is controlling the office of religious institutions. Suleiman sought to control the local mosques, all right, and imam in the local villages, and the ulama, who were not only the religious scholars, but these madrasas are the colleges. They are educational institutions. So he wants to control the narrative that they are saying. Very similar, exact similar to Peter the Great of Russia. He could control what the people were taught, as well as keep an eye on what the ulama were thinking to make sure they buy into his program and everybody is marching in lock and in step with Suleiman the Magnificent. So while this sounds kind of domineering and mean, I really don't think it is. With the ulama working for him, Suleiman is committed to maintaining the Shariah, that is the all-governing body of Islam. This was just his way of doing it. And he does something different. These Ottoman laws and these ways of doing things were meant to be preventative and functional in nature. So we are going to define what is right and what is wrong. These are your rewards for doing it right, and these are your punishments for doing it wrong. So you know that ahead of time. We are being proactive rather than reactive. Here it is, you know it's coming, let's get this done. So there's no whining if you do something and you are punished. What is legal and what is illegal in society. These laws are also published, so everyone knows them ahead of time. And so using the ulama and the Shariah and this kunami, Suleiman creates a comprehensive legal code. Think of, Hammurabi. And this is meant to curb or nip problems in the bud. And as a result, this is one of the reasons for the long-time success of not only the Ottoman Empire, but Suleiman's monarchy as well. We are going to eliminate problems or try and minimize them before they happen. And you got to understand that being in charge of a massive empire like the Ottomans was extremely difficult. Being a head of a monarchy is always hard, but the Ottoman Empire was so big, it was so diverse, it was incredibly difficult. And unlike most absolute monarchs that we have looked at, like Akbar the Great, like Peter the Great, like Louis the 14th, they did not take time to train their successors because they were so busy running their empires. Well, this is what I like to call the Hunger Games. The Ottomans were primarily focused on leadership from a very, very young age. When the boys were old enough, 8, 9, 10, 12, they went to leadership classes to learn how to make decisions. And then in their young teens, they are taken out to small provincial villages where they learn how to make decisions on a small local level, how to work with others, how to carry out the plan, how to diagnose problems. As they got over and more skilled, they would be moved up to medium-sized towns. Right? Not like a large city, but a good-sized town. Maybe like a Hillsborough or a Chapel Hill, where there are a little bit more things that we have to do to continue to gain leadership, command, and control experience and see how problems are solved on a much larger level. Once that was all done, they could go up and they might to govern a large city, a Charlotte, a Raleigh, even an Atlanta. And the idea behind this was the Ottoman Empire is a theocracy. God or Allah chooses who the next emperor is going to be. It is up to him to decide who's going to be sultan. So to prevent a battle for succession or the law of succession to be, out of tune or cause infighting, and this is going to sound weird in a minute, it's not the Sultan's oldest son, it's going to be the most skilled, the one that Allah has chosen. So the Ottoman Empire uses a policy of fratricide, where brothers who are old enough, when the Sultan is clearly, dying or dead, they will enter into a Hunger Games, where each brother has to find a way to form his own plan, right, and execute his brothers and stay alive. I call it the Hunger Games or Survivor, where you've got to outwit, plan the assassinations of your brothers, and keep yourself alive, or do them yourself and wind up being the last man standing. All the competition is eliminated. The one that lives is the one blessed by Allah, and so he is the next sultan. This is a brutally tough system. All right, it's hardcore. It's kind of crazy. But for the Ottomans, it works. And the other thing that helped them is the same thing that helps everybody from Akbar to Peter to Louis to you name it. And that is having a very strong, powerful military. All right? To maintain a powerful, loyal army, the Ottomans would go out and they would draft a certain number of boys from each district. To keep rebellions and to keep an eye on the Christians, the Ottomans would target young Christian boys from peasant families, kind of Spartan-esque. They would be taken to Istanbul from their parents, and then they were taught and trained to be warriors or scholars as Muslims. Right? They're trained to serve as soldiers, or if you're an academic, to be a governor. So the soldiers are trained, they're fed, they're clothed, they're looked after, and they're housed by the Sultan. And their treatment, their training was tough, but they were very well cared for, so they become fanatically loyal to the Sultan. And a special group of these guys were known as the Janissaries. And the Janissaries, you can see here, had their own special costume. There's the Sultan in the background. And they were the special forces soldiers of their day. They were tough, they were violent, and they were nasty. But they were chosen from mainly young Christian boys as a way to keep an eye on the empire and make sure everything flowed smooth and we eliminated some of our enemies. So the Ottoman Empire is awesome. However, After Suleiman dies, his son and some future emperors allow the empire to become plagued with corruption. Yes, he may have won the Hunger Games, but man, it's a lot of work, right? It is tough. Then there was corruption in the military. He favored the military a little bit too much, so some of the generals were taking a little more than they should have. And then there was a series of famines where the harvest did not meet the need of the food for the people. And so it just becomes a very difficult time with this corruption and military and governmental institutions being corrupt. There was no forceful, dominant Mehmed or Suleiman to clean up the mess. At the same time as they're experiencing these failures, it is when we get the rise of Europe, when we get guys like Louis XIV and Peter the Great, and coming after that, the Industrial Revolution, which causes the Ottomans to slip into a secondary role. They're going to hang on until the end of World War I. But they will never again attain the height of they did under the foundational Mehmed or Suleiman the Magnificent. During the height of the Ottoman Empire, it was this multi-religious, multi-ethnic, religious empire run by dominant absolute monarchies, at least two of them, that were equal to or superior to anyone in the world at that time. So guys, no floating torso today, just the screen. Hope you guys watch this. We will finish up with Japan and China on Monday and Tuesday if we're back in school. See you guys then.